The market on Virex 9 was always loud, crowded, and full of strange smells. People from dozens of alien races came there to trade machines, food, crystals, and even secrets. But no one ever stopped to look at the small alien girl who sat near the scrap piles. She was thin, covered in dirt, and wore torn clothes. Her skin had a faded purple tone, once rare and royal in her species, but now just dusty and ignored. Her silver hair was tied back with a piece of wire, and her yellow eyes were tired. No one knew her name, they just called her Trash Girl. She lived among the broken machines, cold metal pieces, and old cables. Each morning she searched for anything useful, tiny power cells, wires, screws. She sold them to junk dealers who paid her just enough for stale bread and water. "Stay away from her," a vendor whispered to a customer. "She's useless, a street rat." "Did you hear?" said another. "She used to be rich, some royal blood, but her family was wiped out. Now look at her." The girl heard all of it, but she never replied. She had learned that silence was safer. If she stayed quiet, no one hit her. If she stayed small, no one chased her away. That morning, something different happened. A human man walked into the market. Humans were rare on Virex 9. They didn't come often, and when they did, they usually kept to themselves. This one looked simple, wore a dusty jacket, gloves, and carried a bag filled with tools. His name was Jason Hale, a ship engineer who had crash-landed on the planet 3 months ago. Since then, he worked on repairs and sold his skills for fuel. Jason came to the scrapyard looking for parts. He passed by the girl. She didn't speak. She just moved out of his way like always. But Jason paused. He looked down and saw something strange. Her hands were holding a rare piece of wiring, not junk, a real power cord from an old core fusion unit. He crouched. "Where'd you find that?" he asked gently. She blinked, surprised that someone was talking to her. "I found it," she whispered. "Do you know what it is?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "It connects energy from the fusion core, very old but still works if cleaned." Jason smiled a little. "That's right." He stood up and looked around. The dealers were watching, confused. Some frowned. Why was a human talking to her? Jason turned back to the girl. "What's your name?" She lowered her eyes. "They don't call me anything." "Well," he said, "I can't call you nothing. Can I trade with you?" She nodded slowly. Jason took a small food pack from his bag and handed it to her. It was fresh, a soft sandwich, not stale. Her hands shook as she reached for it. "For the wire," he said. She gave him the wire, then held the sandwich close. She didn't eat it yet, just looked at it like it might vanish. Jason studied her for a moment. "You know machines?" "A little," she said. "I used to watch the workers before." "Before what?" She looked away. "Before I lost everything." Jason didn't push. Instead, he nodded. "Well, I have a workshop. It's small, but I could use someone to help clean. If you want, I'll pay you in food. You interested?" She looked at him unsure. Was this a trick? "Just cleaning?" she asked. "For now," Jason replied. "You look smart. Maybe later more." She looked around. Everyone else was still staring. Some laughed, some shook their heads. "Don't trust her, human," one merchant yelled. "She'll steal your tools." But Jason didn't listen. He waited. Finally, the girl stood up and followed him. Her name, as he later learned, was Nara. She didn't say much that first day, just watched and cleaned his tools with quiet focus. She even organized his workbench better than he had ever managed himself. Jason was surprised but didn't say anything yet. When the day ended, he gave her a warm blanket, some food, and said she could come back tomorrow. As she walked back to her corner near the scrap piles, the blanket wrapped tight around her, something in her chest felt different. Not fear, not pain, something else. For the first time in a long time, someone had looked at her not like trash, but like she was worth something.
The workshop was small, a converted maintenance unit built into the wall of a forgotten alley near the edge of the city. It smelled of oil, rust, and old metal, but to Nara it smelled like safety, like purpose. On her second day, Nara arrived before sunrise. She stood outside the door, unsure if Jason had meant what he said. Maybe he'd changed his mind. But when the door hissed open and she saw him inside, sleeves rolled up and eyes focused on a dismantled drone, her fears quieted. "You came," Jason said, surprised but clearly pleased. She nodded. "You said I could." He smiled. "I did. Come in. I've got something for you to try." At first, Jason gave her small tasks, cleaning tools, organizing wires, sorting connectors. But as the hours passed, he noticed how her fingers lingered on circuits like they remembered them. Her gaze didn't just watch, she analyzed. "You've worked with machines before," he said casually. "Not worked," Nara murmured, brushing dust from a power cell. "Watched my father. He used to build things. I would sit under his table and watch his hands. He made the gears dance." Jason said nothing for a moment, then pushed a broken handheld scanner toward her. "Wanna make this one dance?" She looked at him in surprise. "You want me to fix it?" "Try," he said with a shrug. "Worst case, it stays broken." Nara bent over the scanner. She examined it, fingers running lightly across the surface. She pried open the case with a small tool, revealing corroded wires and a cracked energy socket. Her brow furrowed. Time passed unnoticed. Jason watched from the side. He didn't interrupt, he just let her work. Finally, with a careful twist and a new wire soldered in place, the scanner blinked to life. Nara jumped back slightly, eyes wide. I didn't think it would work." "But it did," Jason said. "You fixed it." That small success changed everything. By the end of the week, Nara was no longer just cleaning. She was rebuilding old transmitters, piecing together broken drones, even designing simple circuits. Every night, Jason paid her with more than food. He gave her tools, old manuals, and lessons. "I can't read all of it," she admitted once, running her fingers over alien letters. "Then I'll teach you," he said, "one symbol at a time." And he did. After dinner, they sat under the warm, yellow lights of the workshop, tracing words in grease on the table, sounding them out. "Energy," Jason would say. "Energy," Nara repeated. "Flux regulator. Flux regulator." They laughed, it became their rhythm. Outside, the city remained cruel. Vendors still spat when they saw her and children pointed. But inside, she was someone else, not trash, not forgotten. She was Nara, apprentice engineer. One night, after they restored a robotic arm, Jason handed her a small metal pin. It was shaped like a gear, smooth and silver. "What's this?" "A badge," he said. "Every good tech needs one, made it for you." Her throat tightened. She held it like it might shatter. "Thank you," she whispered. She wore it every day. Weeks passed. Nara's confidence grew. She asked questions, offered suggestions. She learned to sketch designs on digital slates, her mind racing faster than her hand. One afternoon, Jason brought in a broken flying cam unit. The damage was severe, wings snapped, stabilizers fried. He laid it on the table and looked at her. "Think we can save this one?" Nara studied it, she smiled. "Yes, but I have an idea to make it better." "Go on." "If we reroute the control signals and install a dual propulsion node, it could fly steadier, even in wind tunnels." Jason raised his eyebrows. "You think like an engineer." Nara flushed. "I want to be one." "You already are." The cam unit took them 3 days. When it finally flew smooth, silent, graceful, they cheered. That night, they sat outside the workshop, sharing warm drinks made from Jason's emergency rations. The sky above was filled with unfamiliar stars. "Why did you help me?" Nara asked softly. Jason was quiet a long moment. "Because you were alone, and I know what that feels like. After I crashed here, no one helped me. I had to fight for every bolt and crumb. I promised myself if I ever got the chance, I'd help someone else." She looked down. "Most people wouldn't pick me." "Then they're fools." Their eyes met. The moment lingered. Nara looked away, but she smiled. In the following days, she transformed the back corner of the workshop into her own space. A cot, a few old shelves, her tools lined neatly. Jason didn't question it. It just became part of their routine. Some evenings, when storms rolled across the metal roofs of Virex 9, they stayed up working through the noise. Other times, they just talked. About space, about dreams, about what it meant to belong. Nara had never belonged anywhere. Now she did. Then came the spark that changed everything. Jason entered the workshop holding a flyer. "Galactic Tech Fair," he read. "Open to independent builders, prizes, partnerships, jobs." "You want to go?" Nara asked. "I want us to go. We'll showcase the flying cam." Nara's heart raced. "They won't accept me. I'm not registered. I have no name." "You have a mind and skill. They can't ignore that." She hesitated, but deep inside a flame had begun to burn. She wanted to try to be seen. "Let's do it," she said. And together they began to prepare. The day of the Galactic Tech Fair arrived like a storm of lights and sound. Nara woke early, nerves crawling through her like electricity. Outside, Virex 9's usually rust-colored skis were streaked with morning mist. The city had never looked more alive. "You ready?" Jason asked as she stepped out of the workshop. She wore her cleanest outfit, patched brown trousers, a soft shirt he had mended himself, and her silver gear pin proudly displayed on her collar. Nara took a deep breath. "I think so." Jason handed her a small toolkit, in case anything breaks. They made their way through the buzzing streets toward the central plaza where temporary stalls and tents shimmered with glowing signs. Builders from across the system had arrived. Slim avian inventors with folding wings, crystalline beings whose devices pulsed with organic light, and human engineers in polished jackets. The crowd parted as Jason and Nara passed. Some recognized Jason. Others stared at Nara. Murmurs followed them. "That's the trash girl. Why's she here?" "Probably stole her way in." Nara kept her head high, though her hands tightened on the strap of her bag. Jason leaned in. "They don't get to decide who you are, you do." At their assigned booth, they set up the flying cam, a sleek silver-bodied machine with hover propellers, reactive sensors, and a display screen. Nara had added stabilizers and adaptive flight memory, making it smarter and more agile than any cam in its class. "Let's do a test flight," Jason said. Nara tapped the console. The cam lifted into the air, gliding in smooth arcs above their heads. It dipped and turned, swooped and hovered, responding to her quiet commands with elegant precision. People began to stop and watch. One tall vendor in a black cloak crossed his arms. "It's a human design." "No," Nara said quietly. "I built the stabilizers myself. It wasn't in the original design." He scoffed. You're just some street urchin." Jason stepped forward. "She's an engineer, and she's better than most people here." The vendor walked off muttering. Others stayed. A judge, a four-eyed woman from the Arcari Council, approached the booth. Her voice was formal but curious. "Who is the primary designer of this drone?" Nara looked up. "I am." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And your name?" "Nara Nohouse." The judge studied her for a long moment, then she nodded. "I'd like to see its adaptive response." Nara pressed a button. The drone flew through a narrow set of moving rings set up nearby. It calculated wind resistance, adjusted for magnetic interference, and landed gently on a shifting platform. Impressed murmurs rippled through the crowd. "That's not standard," someone said. "Did you see the timing? How did it balance like that?" Nara flushed, overwhelmed but proud. Jason squeezed her shoulder gently. Then suddenly a loud crash echoed from a nearby booth. Sparks flew as a larger drone, shiny, gold-plated, spun out of control, knocking over a display. "Cut power, cut it," someone yelled. The emergency team rushed in. The drone's owner, a young man with pale red skin and golden eyes, cursed and shoved tools off his table. "This thing cost me 10,000 credits. It's ruined." "Maybe not," Nara said, surprising even herself. "What?" he snapped. She stepped forward. "May I try to fix it?" He looked at her as if she were a joke. "You." "Let her try," Jason said. The man shrugged angrily. "Fine, make it worse, see if I care." Nara knelt by the machine. She opened its casing, revealing melted fuses and a damaged rotor coil. She worked quickly, hands moving in a rhythm born of instinct and experience. She rewired, bypassed, cooled the overheated core. 5 minutes later, the drone beeped softly. Its lights flickered, then steadied. The propellers spun slowly, then faster. It hovered gently, stable. The young man stared. How did you?" "The fail-safe loop was reversed," she said. "It overclocked itself. I rerouted it." He blinked, then grudgingly said thanks. Someone clapped. Then others joined in. "That was incredible." "Who is she?" "Nara, the engineer," Jason said. When judging time came, the panel of officials visited their booth again. The Arcari judge smiled. "You've done something remarkable here," she said. "Not only with your design, but with your response. You fixed a competitor's drone in seconds." Nera lowered her eyes, suddenly shy again. I just didn't want him to fail. Compassion and brilliance, the judge said. Rare qualities will be in touch. As the fair ended and stalls were packed away, Nera sat beside Jason under the fading light of the market plaza. You did it, he said. We did it, she replied. How do you feel? Like I'm not invisible anymore. Jason looked at her, his gaze soft. You never were, not to me. A wind blew through the square. Lights dimmed. But in Nera's heart something new glowed bright, recognition. Belonging, the whisper of a future she could shape. It began the morning after the fair, when a message buzzed across the old comm unit in Jason's workshop. The screen flickered uncertainly before revealing the image of a tall, graceful woman in a silver uniform. Her skin was a luminous pale green, her eyes calm and piercing. This is Ambassador Kira of the Vidian Embassy, she said. I request a meeting with the technician known as Nera. Jason and Nera exchanged stunned glances. Do you know her? He asked. Nera shook her head slowly. No, but I've heard the name Vidian before. It's one of the noble worlds. They ruled generations ago. Maybe she saw your drone at the fair, Jason guessed. You got attention yesterday. This could be good. Nera wasn't sure. Her gut twisted with unease, but they prepared for the visit anyway. That afternoon, Kira arrived in person. She was taller than Jason, her every movement precise and elegant. Behind her stood two guards in polished armor, though their weapons remained holstered. Kira entered the workshop and looked around with faint curiosity before settling her gaze on Nera. You are her, Kira said softly. Her, Nera echoed. Kira held up a small silver disc. It projected an image of a young girl, dressed in flowing ceremonial silks with silver hair and bright yellow eyes, clean, proud, and unmistakably Nera. You were born Nerathilla Visan, Kira said. Daughter of House Visan, last heir of the Vidian royal line, we believed you lost in the uprising. Nera froze, her mind reeled. That's not possible. My family, they're gone. Everything was taken. Kira's voice was gentle but firm. You were smuggled off-world during the attack. Someone must have hidden you. Your memories may have faded or been altered by trauma, but your identity is clear. Jason stepped forward. Can you prove it? Kira nodded. We can run bioancestry scans, and we have records, birth data, genetic patterns, neural impressions. Nera whispered, why now? Because your drone caught attention, Kira said. Your design, your skill, it matches what the Visan were known for. We traced it. When we saw you, we couldn't ignore the resemblance. The test was simple. One of Kira's attendants took a drop of Nera's blood and ran it through a small device. Symbols flickered. Confirmation. It's true, the attendant said. Nera sat down, stunned. All her life, people had called her trash. Now they told her she was royalty. What happens now? She asked. Kira hesitated. Some will welcome you, others will not. Politics on Vidian are tense. The High Council is fractured. Some fear your return. They may try to silence you. We will protect you, but this decision is yours. Nera looked at Jason. He was silent, but his eyes told her, whatever you choose, I'll stand with you. I need time, Nera said finally. I've just started to become someone here. I don't want to lose that. Kira nodded respectfully. We'll remain in orbit. Contact us when you're ready. They left as quietly as they had come. The silence in the workshop was heavy. How do you feel? Jason asked. Like the past punch through the ceiling, she whispered. For the next few days, Nera barely touched her tools. She wandered the city in disguise, listening to how people spoke of her. Some still called her trash. Others whispered about the fair. A few even began calling her Lady Nera. Jason gave her space but never let her drift too far. One night, she returned to the workshop to find him working on a strange project, half machine, half biosphere. It had glowing vents and a chamber filled with artificial moss. What's that? She asked. Air purifier, he said. Meant for polluted moons, compact, mobile. I had the idea a while ago, never had the time. She touched the shell gently. This could help a lot of people. Want to build it together? She nodded. Yes, but not for a prize, not for a title for us, for the people out there. Days turned into weeks. They built in secret. Word of Nera's identity spread, and with it came pressure. Vidian envoys sent more messages. Rival houses on the planet began publishing propaganda, claiming Nera was an imposter. Once, someone threw a rock through the workshop window with a note, "Go back to the gutter." Nera didn't cry. She reinforced the glass, then went back to the purifier. "They want me to be a princess or a ghost," she said one night, "but I just want to be me." Jason smiled. "Then be that, let them catch up." When the purifier prototype was complete, it worked better than either expected. The device cleaned the air in minutes, reducing toxicity by 80% in the test chamber. Nera stood in awe. "It works, it really works." Jason handed her a small nameplate, Engineer Nera Visson. She traced the letters with trembling fingers. "I think I'm ready not to rule, but to tell my story, to show them what someone like me can become." And with that, she sent her message to Ambassador Kira. "I'll come to Vidian, but not as a lost heir. I'll come as myself, a builder, a fixer, someone who earned their place." Nera stood aboard the transport bound for Vidian, staring out the viewing window. The stars shimmered past like a river of fireflies. Jason sat beside her, silent but present. He had insisted on coming, not as a bodyguard or advisor, but as her partner. She squeezed the nameplate in her hand. Engineer Nera Visson. It didn't feel like a title, it felt like a promise. As they approached Vidian, the planet unfolded below them like a tapestry of silver seas and violet mountains. Orbiting satellites blinked like stars. The capital, Lirimsa, pulsed with the soft lights of 1,000 towers. They landed at a private hangar, greeted by Ambassador Kira and a small delegation. The guards bowed. No weapons, no threats, just silent recognition. "Welcome home, Nera," Kira said. "This doesn't feel like home," Nera replied. "Not yet." Kira nodded. "Then let us build it anew." In the days that followed, Nera was paraded through events and councils. Her identity was officially recognized. Her name reinstated into the royal archives. But she resisted ceremony. She spoke plainly, refused the silks they offered her, wore her gear pin and tool belt instead. "I'm not here to sit on a throne," she told the council. "I'm here to fix what's broken." At first, they scoffed, but then Jason presented the purifier prototype and Nera explained its design. Skeptical eyes widened. "This could save thousands," one counselor muttered. "That's the idea," Nera said. Soon, engineers from all corners of the planet came to see the invention. Jason and Nera worked with them, adapting the design to Vidian's needs. Factories reopened. Workshops buzzed. For the first time in years, Vidian's air grew cleaner. But peace was fragile. Opposition grew louder. The rival houses whispered of rebellion. Rumors spread that Nera was a puppet, that Jason was manipulating her. One night, a saboteur infiltrated the lab and nearly destroyed their main purifier. They caught him in time, but it rattled Nera. "They'll never accept me," she said. "They want the old world back." "Then show them something better," Jason replied. "Don't fight for the crown, fight for the people." Nera took that advice to heart. She began traveling across Vidian, not as a royal, but as an engineer. She helped repair broken pumps in flooded cities, recalibrate atmospheric shields in rural zones, and install purifiers on rooftops. Wherever she went, she listened. The people didn't care about bloodlines. They cared about clean air, about food, about hope. Her fame spread, not as a princess, but as Nera the Fixer. One evening, standing on a balcony overlooking the capital, Jason turned to her. "You've changed this world already." "Not enough," she said. "There are other places like Virex 9, planets left to rot. We have to reach them too." "Then we build a fleet," Jason said. "A moving workshop, fly to the forgotten worlds, repair, restore, remind them they matter." Nera's eyes lit up. "We'll call it the Forge." And so it began. The Forge was built from the bones of old transport ships and mining freighters. It was part mobile lab, part school, part sanctuary. They equipped it with tools, blueprints, and purifiers. Nera trained a team, humans, aliens, hybrids, anyone who wanted to fix, to build. The first voyage took them to a desolate moon choked in black dust. They cleared the air, planted oxygen moss, left behind tools and training. The second world had a water crisis. Nera installed filter towers powered by wind and kinetic treadmills. At each stop, the Forge left more than machines. It left hope. Back on Vidian, the political storm calmed. Even her enemies saw her value. She was no longer a threat. She was a legend. One night, after months aboard the Forge, Jason joined Nera on the observation deck. Outside, stars wheeled across the darkness. "You remember when you gave me that sandwich?" she asked suddenly. He chuckled. "You looked like you. Never seen bread before." "I hadn't," she said. "Not fresh anyway, but it wasn't the food. It was the way you saw me, like I was, not broken." "You weren't," he said. "You were just waiting to be noticed." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You changed everything." "We changed each other." They sat in silence. The Forge drifted through space, a beacon of light. Nera had once been invisible, forgotten, called trash. Now she was a builder of worlds, a bringer of air, a girl who had found her voice and her place. And beside her stood the human who had looked at her, not as a stranger, not as royalty, but as someone worth everything. Her story was no longer about what she had lost. It was about what she was building. And it was just beginning.